Welcome to Big Bets on Campus. This is the weekend warm-up. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined by my Action Network co-host Duck. Every Friday, we're coming to you live, so you can hit us up with your questions throughout. We're going to get into everything we're adding to our card. We're going to have commentary on market movement, injury reports, anything that can help you get into the black this weekend. And as I mentioned, since we're live, you can hit us up with our questions right here in the YouTube chat, or you can submit them over on X. Just go ahead and tag us, or the Action Network Discord. Before we get into the bets, though, there's a quick way for you to tail us throughout the show and also throughout the season. First, sign up for Action Network Pro. You'll get instant notifications when any Action Network expert tracks a bet, whether that's me, Duck, Stucky, anyone who's got that little check mark next to their name. You want to get those notifications as soon as possible because it's not just about making the best bets, it's making the best bets at the best prices. Plus, you can also access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and his predictive analytics team, plus a ton of other benefits. And right now, we have a special offer for you, dear listener. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro and get $20 off an annual subscription price with the promo code BBOC20. So don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro and use promo code BBOC20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. All right, Doc, let's jump into kind of a broader discussion as some of the questions flow in here. And before we get into our best bets for Friday and for Saturday, I'd like to start with your take on a team that's on the bubble. This is the time of year when markets, across all sports books starts popping up about teams yes or no to make the field of 68. And a team that you have circled here is one that's underwhelmed a bit vis-a-vis their talent, but do you think the price point is right to talk about the Hokies and them making the field of 68? Walk me through why you like Virginia Tech.
Well, I mean, just look at how they're playing right now, and they picked up a huge road win against Clemson on Wednesday night, shot the basketball really well. Just a real dangerous team that's going to have opportunities to play its way in. I think when you look at just a couple things, they shot the ball. 11 made three-pointers against Clemson, 1.17 points per possession. Just really hard to do against that Clemson defense. But they have games that are upcoming against Miami, North Carolina, and Virginia on the road. I think if these guys win one of those games, they'll have a decent shot at continuing to pad that resume. If they win two, well, then you're looking at a team that's going to be 10 and 8 in ACC play and likely going to have 22 wins on the season as long as they win one in the ACC tournament. I just don't see how a team with that sort of profile is going to get left out. They've already beaten Virginia. They've got a couple of other really salty wins in league play, and they're going to have some significant opportunities to continue to pad that. We saw these guys priced about 320 in the market at the start of last week, and I think we're starting to see the trend positively for Virginia Tech as just one of those teams that could get hot and really play their way onto the bubble and then into the field. So I think at plus 160, we're really intrigued here because there's just going to be opportunities to gain and to garner those quality wins. And a team that has double-digit ACC wins, 22 wins in the regular season, it just is a team that profiles as one that's really going to grab the attention of the committee on Selection Sunday. So I think that is a group that you'll want to have in your portfolio for yes.
Yeah, I'm with you in terms of stacking in some of these futures bets as it relates to the bubble. This is one of the weakest years for power conference bubble teams. Like just running through them, you got Ohio State and Cal and Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State, it's shocking to me that they're here at this point with some work left to do, certainly to be on the right side of the bubble. But the fact that they're there, I think, is more an indication of both the lack of power conference teams that are right on the cusp, but also there's only really, I mean, you can make the argument for New Mexico. They're probably going to need to stack wins down the stretch and then also make a run likely to the Mountain West Conference Championship game to feel safe on Selection Sunday. So just kind of a weird year, although things can get strange pretty quickly. If Miami of Ohio takes one or two losses before the conference tournament, and also trip up, before they get to a conference championship rematch against Akron, they could find themselves in hot water on Selection Sunday. So a lot can change, obviously, in the next, few weeks. Let's stick in the ACC here for a moment. A huge injury, devastating. I mean, even if you don't like North Carolina, no one wants to see a team lose or take a step back because of injury, particularly in this freshman class. There's been so much fantastic basketball being played by these 18 and 19-year-olds. But Caleb Wilson, man, with that hand injury, what does this do to North Carolina overall? Do you expect him to be back at any point this season? And if not, like, how far does their ceiling drop down?
Well, it's a vicious break for them. I mean, this guy averaged 20 and 10, could pass the ball really well, just a real playmaker. And now the offense is really going to be stressed. The post play will be stressed. Henry Visar is going to have much more responsibility put on him in the post on both ends to rebound the basketball. And it's just so hard when you see a team that played so well defensively against Duke. You know, Hubert Davis really was a guy that challenged this Tar Heels defense after some lackluster performances in the middle of the season, and to see them be able to completely put the brakes on what Duke wanted to do offensively. It was championship caliber type of defense that was played. And really, for the first time this season, we saw that with North Carolina. Their defense had let them down at several points this year. But now on the offensive end, for him to go out, for Caleb Wilson to go out, is just really a tough break. I was thinking North Carolina was going to have a little value in the futures market at 60 or 70 to 1, maybe a team that could play up their seeding and possibly get into that four-line discussion if they were to rattle off wins the rest of the way. But man, now it's going to just be really tough, I think, for these guys. So I don't know. I don't think I'm there yet based on the injury, and it doesn't necessarily sound like it's guaranteed he's going to be back. He's going to do everything that he possibly can to try to recover in his rehabilitation time frame, but there's no guarantees that he's going to be back. So it could be a real tough thing for them to have to play without him in the NCAA tournament.
Let's stick in the ACC, and a reminder to our audience, hit us up with your questions in the YouTube chat. We're also going to put quick slip links for some of the games we're going to discuss in just about 10 minutes on the Friday and Saturday card. UVA to make the Final Four. I think I'm ready to pull the trigger. I want to grab a team outside of the top two seed lines right now in terms of the mock brackets that present value and also have room to grow. And this really comes down to the price point for the Cavaliers at 14 to 1 and the potential for them to play their way onto the three line. As of right now, the Wahoos, according to Bracket Matrix, are safely a four seed with Vandy and the Zags ahead of them on that line, and then Florida and Michigan State, the last two teams on that three line. I think there's a potential here for them to get to a three seed and to critically avoid a matchup in the Sweet 16 with a one seed, at least until the Elite Eight, at which point a 14 to 1 ticket is a great place to hedge from. I love Odom's defense. Their top 10 in effective field goal percentage defense this year. The offense runs through the multi-dimensional DeRidder. And I mean, they have shooters who can get hot. They haven't necessarily shot the ball all that well in the last 3 weeks, but when you look at their body of work, they blasted Texas, they handled Louisville, they built a 15-point lead against that North Carolina team with Wilson in the lineup that you just discussed before blowing it. But I think their A game can get them to the Elite Eight, and that's where I'm looking here to be able to hedge off of it. I understand that all the oxygen this year in terms of college hoops has been sucked up by the freshmen, and well deserved. This freshman class is incredible. And the so-called elite teams, those 8 to 10 teams at the top of the sport that everyone's saying these teams are unbeatable. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know that we've from time to time poked some holes in some of these resumes, but really I think it just comes down to I don't want them to knock off a one seed in the Sweet 16, and that's still not enough to get them to the Final Four. I really need them to get to that three line, but 14 to 1, I think is worth it. What's your take on Odom's team? It's, a game that I'm going to mention on Saturday against Ohio State, another data point that can help them if they win that game convincingly in Nashville. But overall, I think they have opportunities in front of them. They clearly have that road game at Duke. They may get two games against Duke if they end up drawing them in the ACC tournament. If they split with the Blue Devils, I really like their position to potentially sneak in as a three.
Yeah, just a dangerous team that has a lot of weapons on offense. DeRidder, Malik Thomas, Chance Mallory has shot the ball well, and a team that has put together some impressive wins will have the opportunity to continue to do that. I'll be real interested to see how Virginia plays in the ACC tournament. If they're a team that makes a deep run in that tournament, I think they can absolutely put their way onto the three line. I think this team is peaking at the right time. We've seen the defense really put the kibosh on their opponents. A lot of what they face in the ACC, everyone wants to get paint touches. They want to get good looks on the block. A lot of these offenses are run through the paint, and Virginia just makes that really difficult. So you're settling for mid-range jumpers. They contest everything. They're really good at protecting the rim. Just a dangerous team, I think, come March. So if they can get onto that three line, maybe have a little bit easier path after you get out of the first weekend, I think Virginia is a very dangerous kind of still under the radar group. They're still not getting talked about as much as some of the other teams that you had mentioned, kind of the big eight that always get talked about or the big four. But I think Virginia is a team that could make some significant noise.
All right, we have a few questions in here. The first is, what do you think the line is going to be for Fresno State Air Force? This is going to be a big one. I'm looking at different projections. I would be shocked if it was below 17. I think it's going to probably be 17, 17 and a half, 18. Second question, revenge spot for Gardner Webb on the spread after a 55-point loss. It's a high point in the first meeting. I'll kick that one to you, Duck. Do you think there's any value in the running Bulldogs?
No, I don't want to play Gardner Webb. Their defense is the absolute worst in the country. They can't stop anybody. They've been just really, really bad in Big South play. They just nothing really there that I would like. High Point can score the basketball. They have five capable scorers. They play really fast. I don't think that there's any sort of opportunity. I mean, even if you're laying 20 with High Point, I don't think it's enough. It's very similar to when you look at a conference matchup that we're going to see between St. Louis and Loyola Chicago. I just don't think that you can power rate this one appropriately because the dichotomy from top to bottom in some of these leagues is very, very drastic. I don't think Loyola can play on the same floor as St. Louis, and I really don't think Gardner Webb is going to be able to. The only way Gardner Webb would cover this line is if High Point just completely goes defense optional in the second half and it's 102 to 87 type of game, which is very possible. Gardner Webb played that their last time out against Winthrop, where Winthrop just went defense optional in the second half. But I would imagine this is a spot where High Point is completely capable of putting up 100 points.
All right, I'm about to give out a same game parlay, but before I do that, check out the Parlay Express account in the free award-winning Action Network app, where we'll be posting lots of plays, and this is not just us, this is across all sports. So you're going to find a bunch of fun long shot bets and parlays in there across, really anything that's live at this point. You can find the quick slip link to this, podcast, whether it's the BBOC Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, anytime we're here on the weekend warm up as well. So everything's going to be right there in the chat if you want to go ahead and hear a bet that you like and have it populate in a sports book of your choice. We make it as easy as possible. Or you can go ahead and visit actionnetwork.com/bet now to find some of our bets and to tail them as well. All right, let's get into it here. Our fast break segment, Duck. We're going to go through, it looks like, what, 7 or 8 picks in the next 5 minutes. We're also keeping our lines open for any of your questions. Continue to throw them in there. Duck, why don't you get us started with a game that you like on Friday?
Yeah, so we're going to look at Niagara's team total under. Justin Page for Niagara has missed three of the last four matchups. The one game he did play was against crosstown rival Canisius. It's a real spirited rivalry. He tried to give it a go. Went just 11 minutes in that game. The offense is completely lost for Niagara without Page, who is the only Purple Eagle that averages double figure scoring with 12.1 points per game. Niagara has been held under 70 points in 12 of 14 conference games this season, and the pace has slowed considerably for Niagara without Justin Page in the fold. What I'm looking at here is they have played games to 58, 61, and 59 total possessions. I look at the first meeting, which ended 79-70. It was a 60 possession game, and Niagara did make 10 threes. Page had 13 points, but with Page out of the fold, I don't think we'll see as hot a shooting for Niagara in this matchup. Niagara has won three conference games all season, and in each of those games, it was held to less than 65 points in wins. I think Greg Paulus knows that this Niagara team has to slow the pace significantly in order to stay in these games. They're going to win with their defense. If they do win, which they could, they're 1 point favorites. I think they'll win this game 66 to 62 type of game. They have to slow the pace. They have to control the possession count, and I think they'll do that tonight. So at 68 and a half, 69 and a half, we're going Niagara's team total under.
All right, let's stick on Friday night. I like a same game parlay. Give me the Minutemen, UMass playing at Akron, catching 13, also over 160. You should get close to 5-2 on your money here. The Minutemen, they just don't get blown out. They've taken a single loss the entire season by more than two possessions. And if you take out that 10-point loss on an off shooting night against Kent, their other 9 losses this season have come by 3.4 points per game. Near misses against Marshall, Charleston, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, Coastal, all good teams, all going to be playing in some variation of a postseason this year. UMass uses up tempo, their top 50 there. That's only going to pump a little bit of juice into this Akron offense that's been flailing a little bit in recent weeks. I think a faster, more up tempo game, more threes from UMass is going to push this game over the total of 160. And their guards, for the Minutemen, they can really keep up. Banks and Parker are both around 40% from 3-point range, and Leo Vital is playing like an absolute man possessed on the low block. He's good for a double-double in this game at power forward for UMass. The last piece of it is, I said that Akron struggled a little bit offensively. They failed to reach 70 points in three straight games, the only time that's happened to them this season. The recipe for that is play on your home floor and play in an up-tempo game. And I think they're going to get a lot of points in transition in this one. I'd be shocked if they were held below 20 in transition. It's really just going to come down to how much fight UMass has. And I've seen their body of work. I've watched them, probably play 10 games this year. They are a team that do not quit. I mean, you just saw it against Coastal. That game was arguably the game of the year in college basketball.
Bananas.
The shot making, the energy from both teams. This does not seem like a team that's mailing it in late in the season. I know that the MAC has gotten its flowers and deservedly so. Most of that attention's on the top of the conference in Miami of Ohio and Akron, but really the middle class of this conference is really feisty too. So I was surprised to see this go off of double digits. As soon as it popped at 13, I had to absolutely grab it. All right, Duck, hit me up with another one. This one from Saturday.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the Big West and we're gonna look at Hawaii laying 5 points on the road against CSUN. The Bows won the first meeting by 21 points, and Hawaii was able to shred CSUN's defense in the paint, shooting 16 for 30 from 2 point range and 21 of 29 from the foul line. Guys like Isaac Johnson, Isaac Finlinson, Giddis Niemixta, just unstoppable down in the post. And I look at the Hawaii travel. It's going to be mitigated in this situation, having just played Bakersfield away from the island on Thursday. The Bows are already out there. One thing for Hawaii is they have not played great in their second game of back-to-backs away from the island, but I think they put up a really nasty defensive effort here. I don't think CSUN is going to be able to match up well with these guys. Hawaii is too strong in the interior defensively. CSUN is just 290th nationally in 3 point offensive shooting rate offensively. They don't want to shoot the three ball. They're going to have to make outside shots to stay in this game against Hawaii. I don't think they can do it. This projected spread is Hawaii -5. I'm going to lay it with the Bows. I'd lay up to 7.
All right, a quick interjection here from Beth Dickens. Do you like Miami of Ohio tonight, laying the points?
I mean, Miami of Ohio is tough because you're certainly paying a tax to bet the Red Hawks, and now you're going to get everybody's best effort in conference play. And Ohio is a team that I think can actually put a bit of a scare into these guys. Ohio has shooters. They've got guys that can score the ball. Javon Simmons, Jackson Paveletsky is a really good shooter. Aiden Hadaway can score the ball well. And Miami has just started to play a little tight. They're very talented. They've got some great shooters and they are streaky. So if they get hot, Miami can turn a close game into a 20-point final quickly. But when that doesn't happen, and that's been the case at times in the last 4 or 5 conference games, you have to go to overtime against Buffalo and Kent State. You're playing UMass to a 2 point game where you're down by 5 points in the last couple of minutes. That second meeting with Buffalo was very, very tough. So I don't know if I'm wanting to lay it. I had talked about this one earlier in the week, and I was thinking that a lot of the projections were going to show this at about 13. So I really wanted to catch a bigger number with Ohio. Probably a pass for me at the current number. If we get a hot Miami start and I can get a 13.5 or 14.5 live with Ohio, I'll probably look that way, but it's a pass at the current number.
Another question coming in. Can we make this Utah State Memphis line high enough? And I think that's a fair question because when you are facing the Aggies at Smith Spectrum, they've just laid the wood. They're 10-1 straight up on their home floor. They've reeled off what, 7 or 8 wins in a row. This is a weird travel spot for Memphis. It looks like this thing is going to open about 11, 12. I would need 15 to be comfortable with the Tigers. And even so, I think the bottom could fall out. What's your feel for this one?
Just a strange out of conference game, strange travel spot at this point in the season. Projections had this one at 15 at a lot of places, and that I thought might have been a little bit too high. I think that Memphis does have some athleticism and they can create some different looks that Utah State isn't necessarily used to seeing in their league. So I would be inclined to take the points with Memphis if it was that high, but 11, 10, yeah, probably not in that range.
All right, speaking of taking a lot of points, I'm going to hop over on Saturday to a Big Ten matchup. UCLA catching 16 and a half at Michigan. The Wolverines is a double-digit favorite. It's not going well, really, in the last 2 months. They're 1-8 in their last 9 games as a double-digit favorite. You're paying a massive tax on this game because of the UCLA travel angle. Everyone's talking about it. Cronin can't shut up about it. They mail in games on the road. But you have to look at their body of work recently too. That's got to count for something. I realize the majority of it has been at home, but if not for a double overtime loss against Indiana, the Bruins would be on a 5 game win streak, including a home win over Purdue. This past month, too, for the Bruins, there's been plenty to like about this offense. They're top 25 in Torvik in that window of time, four different leading scorers in their last 6 games, and Dent has looked like the high price floor general that they bought out of the transfer portal. When you look at his performances, three straight double doubles with assists among starting point guards in Big Ten play, he's second in assist to turnover ratio behind Nebraska's PG. So 4.17 assist to turnovers, that's kind of a magic number as a facilitator. I think this offense has enough to hang around against the Wolverines. And based on their offensive trajectory and momentum, speaking of UCLA, and Haslam metric backs this up, I have faith that they can score close to 80 points if Michigan really speeds this up to their preferred tempo. They're right on the cusp of being top 10 in tempo across the country. If that's the case, I think 16 and a half is too much. Keep in mind, Michigan favored in a significant way as a double digit, chalk. Struggled against Northwestern, Oregon, Washington, all in recent weeks. This isn't ancient history, so I think this number is too big. Like I said, you mentioned a tax when you're playing Miami of Ohio because they're on this undefeated streak. I think there's a reverse tax here. I'm going to take advantage of it with UCLA. I'm waiting at some point for them to bring it on the road. If there was ever a spot to do it, you want to play really well, and this could be a win to hang their hat on and could really help them in the seeding department come Selection Sunday. So I think 16 and a half is crazy. My numbers call for this to be 12, so I'll take more than a full possession more worth of value. What do you think on UCLA? Do you think they're just dead on the road, or do you think this narrative has just gotten a bit out of control?
I think the narrative's gotten a bit out of control. Now, the body of work shows that UCLA has not played exceptional basketball away from home, and there are some losses in there that could have been wins, and then the narrative is probably a little bit different. But Michigan as well has just not, they've kind of played with their food against lesser competition in recent weeks, and we saw it again come to fruition on Wednesday, where you could have gotten the Wolverines when they were down by 15 as a significant live in play dog. And so they just, yeah, they made a large run. It was, I think, 38 to 11 or something to close that one out and end up winning by double digits. But for 32 minutes against Northwestern, they looked like the inferior team and a team that was just disinterested at times and playing a lot of defense, which was concerning in my opinion. UCLA has a little bit of an attitude, though, and that starts with Mick Cronin, and we've seen him in the media talk about the travel and do some complaining, and we've kind of been on him a little bit about that. But I think this is a spot for UCLA where they have a real chance to just solidify some of their positioning and really make a statement to the committee and to the rest of the Big Ten. I don't know. I kind of think that this one is probably a little closer. 16 and a half just seems like way too many points in a matchup of two of these teams at this caliber. So yeah, 16 and a half, I would grab the points with UCLA there.
Now, Michigan is one of those schools that's produced a sitting U.S. president as well as a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Harvard and Yale can't compete with that, but they certainly can compete with the president part of it. 13 presidents have either gone undergrad, postgrad, or law school at Harvard and Yale. And you want to talk about them on Saturday. Yale pulled one out of their hat. They talk about a weird middle of the season game that doesn't make any sense. They played Howard. They sleptwalked through the majority of that game. They end up pulling it out of the fire late. Do you think that they bounce back here and play against their arch rival and really make a statement, for lack of a better word here? The Yaleys could use one after kind of sleepwalking through recent games.
I think so, and I think that they were a little bit surprised by Howard's athleticism. There's a real chance that they just overlooked the Bison and kind of a fun game played in Washington, D.C. It was a unique game specifically for the Ivy League. We don't see a lot of out-of-conference matchups at this point in the season pertaining to the Ivy League. I really don't know what it was with Yale, but I do know that this game here against Harvard on Saturday is going to pit the top two defenses in the Ivy League against each other. Yale is first in the Ivy League in defensive efficiency per Ken Palm, and they play their league games at a very, very slow pace, 65 total possessions. Yale, excellent in prohibiting offensive rebounds, really good at forcing opponents into unforced errors. So you look at shot clock violations, errant passes out of balance or out of bounds, traveling turnovers, just things of that nature. Yale is good at forcing their opponents into doing that. The first meeting between these two did play to 65 to 67 in a game that saw just 58 total possessions. When you look at the score, at the under 10 point in the second half was 46 to 39. Just never trended to get over the posted total in that game or this total that we're projected to have at 144 and a half. And those two opponents combined to shoot 16 of 38 from three. You had just a barrage of three-pointers in the last 10 minutes that went in. I don't think we see that hot shooting, especially from Harvard this time around. You've got the second of back-to-back games. Harvard and Yale both play tonight, and then they have to turn around and play tomorrow night. And that's only happened for the second point this year. Yale is going to have a bit of a track meet tonight playing Dartmouth, and Harvard has to face a real physical, competitive Brown squad. I think that's going to create a slower pace game tomorrow. Could be some tired legs in the second half where the jumpers fall short. 144 and a half just seems bizarre based on the possession count we saw in the first game, what the first final was at. Top two defenses in the Ivy League. I want to lean to a defensive game here. So at 144 and a half, I'm absolutely in on the under here.
All right, for a bit more fireworks, I'm going to turn late night on Saturday. Gonzaga laying 3.5 at Santa Clara. This number is tight because Santa Clara has won 9 straight. That includes a wire-to-wire win over St. Mary's at home, but the rest of that streak has been against non-tournament teams. And the Zags did beat them by 12 in Spokane with a big second half where they held the Broncos scoreless for 5 minutes down the stretch. EK killed him in that game, 34 and 11. And I think that's where I want to hang my hat in this one. I don't mind laying just above one possession with the Zags because the interior of this SC defense, you can get to the rim, you can get to the post and get good looks. You can look at it, they're 292nd in average 2-point shot distance per KenPom. So you can, penetrate off the dribble, you can get it into your bigs who are skilled. And EK is one of the best, in the entire country, particularly when he's facing off against mid-major defenses. That's how New Mexico also blew out this Santa Clara team earlier this year. They just continually beat them up inside and got to the glass. And Santa Clara is very soft on the defensive glass. The Zags team, even without Huff in the lineup, they've gone for double-digit offensive rebounds in 10 straight games. I think that's going to be the difference maker here. The Levy Center, by the way, for Santa Clara, 279th in home court advantage per KenPom. So even though it will be a zoo, they're going to be fired up. I think it was 2 years ago they got a win outright over Mark Few in the same exact spot. I think that only helps kind of sharpen the minds of the Zags in this one, a team that's coming off that embarrassing loss about 3 games ago to Portland. I don't think there's any overlooking this. You're going to get an A+ premium effort out of this GU team. And if EK can stay out of foul trouble, I feel very good about this one. Santa Clara is a great story. They've certainly played their way onto the bubble. This is a conversation of a team that still has some work left to do to find themselves inside the field. But it's exciting to have a 3-team league out of the WCC making an appearance in the big dance. What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think they have the goods to not only hang around and make it competitive, but actually beat this Gonzaga team outright?
I mean, I do think that is true. I don't hate the play of laying the short number of 3.5. I think Gonzaga has responded well after a significant wake-up call where they lost at Portland by 7 a couple of weeks back. And then all you do is come out and thrash Oregon State and Washington State by 20 points each and really getting back to having a domineering presence down low. Ike is fully in the swing after missing a couple games due to injury. And I don't know necessarily if Santa Clara's defense is going to be able to prevent Gonzaga from getting into the paint. Gonzaga leads the country in points in the paint by a wide margin, and we know they're going to throw it into the post. It's not that they can't or won't shoot threes because they do have shooters that can make it from outside, but they just have an offensive system that they like to run. I think that this would be a lot more appealing for Santa Clara if they were catching a few more points and maybe Gonzaga hadn't had a slip up game against Portland. I would be more inclined to want to back the Broncos there. But I think this game's going to be very close. You look at the first matchup, which was close. Santa Clara led by 8 in the first half. So I definitely think that there's a game flow that points to this one being close for a while. But at the end of the day, I think that Gonzaga is just slightly too talented and really can't afford, really does not want to have another road slip up here. So I think you get A+ effort. I think you get a fully locked in Gonzaga team who they had a little bit of a scare put into them the first meeting against Santa Clara. So I think we see the Zags play their best basketball here of their conference slate to date, and they pick up this win.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and ask you before you get into your final play, which is LIU against New Haven. Did you prefer when they were the Blackbirds, or did you like the rebrand to the Sharks?
No, I liked it as the Blackbirds. I thought
I
it
like
was
the
a treat.
Blackbirds too. I don't know what it is. I feel like, I mean, maybe it's a New York thing because Lemoyne and upstate New York around Syracuse, they're the Dolphins. There's an obsession with forcing aquamarine animals, fish, mammals, whatever it is, into their names. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I would go with the Blackbirds too. All right, walk me through this total.
Yeah, the projected total with New Haven and LIU is 132 and a half. Long Island has the top defensive team in the NEC, ranking first in overall defensive efficiency, first in effective field goal percentage allowed, first in three-point percentage, and they're blocking 15% of opponent shots at the rim. New Haven is just not equipped to put the ball in the painted area and to procure solid paint touches, which will result in easy looks in close or trips to the foul line. They're just not getting that done. They had a little bit of success against Central Connecticut State in their last meeting, but I just don't see them doing that here against the top defense in this conference. And their defense has held its last four opponents under 70 points. But New Haven is only scoring 52 to 55 points per game recently, and five of their last seven matchups have had 121 or less total points. More often than not, I think we're going to see a game played in the low 60s for possession count. New Haven is really going to struggle to surpass 60 points. They're going to have to be methodical. They're going to have to work deep into the possession clock. We're going to see mid-range jumpers, three-point shots that are contested that do not go in. And I just think we get one of those 65 to 59 type of slog scores, which will be under the projected total of 132 and a half here. So you're not going to get a lot of pace. You're not going to get a lot of runouts in transition. Long Island is completely going to dictate the terms. Both these teams want to play slow. This is an under for me.
All right, let's close things out in terms of our fast break, which turned more into a half court slog. We took our time here, but that's fine. A lot of good plays. Eight in total. It's going to be the eighth one. This is the Nashville shootout, showdown, something. I don't know why they're putting a neutral site game at this point in the season, but as we mentioned, there's been a lot of weird middle of conference slate, non-conference games that have popped up, but this one's actually pretty good. The Wahoos laying 4.5 against Ohio State. The official number just popped in the last, it looks like 90 minutes. This is exactly what I was hoping for. I wanted it below two possessions. I got it. I'm going to hop on this one because, as I mentioned from the top, the reason why I like them to go to the Final Four, at least at the price point of 14 to 1, is that I love Ryan Odom. I think he's a great coach. I think he, in very short order, has them playing the kind of basketball that led them to a national championship under Tony Bennett. But the difference is he has balance offensively as well. He's always been a winner. Lenore Rhind, UMBC, Utah State, VCU. He arrives, he turns teams, into the exact image that he wants. He's done it in short order. And they're a really disciplined team on the offensive end. DeRitter is someone who's so multi-dimensional. He gives them so many different ways to score. He can also pass the ball, when he gets those double teams. I just need them to get five, spark it a little bit from long range because when they've gone into the shell offensively, they've kind of messed around with teams, at least in my opinion, they're a weight class above at this point. But their defense is going to continue to win the day, particularly against an Ohio State team that absolutely needs their three-pointers to fall. I don't mind backing Ohio State as a home dog. When they're pulling some of the, top three or four teams in the Big Ten, they can make a lot of shots on their home floor from distance. Mobley and Royal in particular, can help out Thornton in that backcourt. They can play some really good basketball. But when you look at it, they beat all of one team I respect this entire season. I talked about it in the midweek episode. They have a win against UCLA. It was a great win. They did it on their home floor. UCLA traveling to them. They shot 53%. They shot 21 for 25 from the foul line. That's a lot of good fortune to expect on a neutral floor in Nashville against a Wahoo team that's going to absolutely challenge every single shot. So I think barring kind of a outliers, 3-point variance going against me. I think Virginia is just the class of this matchup. And like I said, at this price point, I got exactly what I wanted. So I'm going to tie UVA into a couple parlays as well. This is one of those critical key bets for me on Saturday. What are your thoughts on Ohio State? This is a team that's, as we discussed earlier, they're on the bubble. They have work to do. They desperately need a win like this, so they're clearly going to be motivated. They have the backcourt to get it done in terms of the scoring potential. But outside of that, I think there's a lot of holes in this Buckeye team.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I thought they benefited from a lighter than average non-conference slate. They really weren't challenged early on in the season. You had a concerning loss against Pittsburgh, and then against some of the more physical and more top-end talent teams that they've played, I feel like they've not necessarily played their best basketball, struggled against Illinois, Nebraska, of course, a couple games against Michigan. This is not going to be Maryland, Penn State, or Minnesota that they're lining up against here in a neutral venue. I would lean first half under, as I think it's going to take some time for Ohio State to really figure out what they're able to do offensively against this defense. Virginia just has such an elite closeout defense. You're not going to get a lot of open looks from beyond the 3-point arc. You're not going to get the ball in low. I mean, they're blocking so many shots or altering, these shots that they receive in the paint. I saw them on February 7th just completely get Syracuse out of sorts. Syracuse could not operate, could not get the ball into the paint. They couldn't make shots in the second half. They held Florida State to 58. They held Pittsburgh to 47. I mean, this is going to be real tricky for Ohio State to just roll out there and try to do their thing. You're not going to get a lot of buckets in transition against Virginia. Again, the 3-point shots are going to have to fall for Ohio State, or it's going to be really tough for them. You might just be chasing the scenario in this one if you like Ohio State at 4.5 or 5.5. If they're down 8 to 10 the entire second half and they can't get shots to fall, even if the defense is hanging in there, you're going to have something break your way in order to get within the number. So I'd be inclined here. University of Virginia is a much more talented team. They have top end talent. The defense is much more cohesive. I would lean on the Wahoos to put up a good defensive performance in the neutral gym and to win this game by more than 4.5.
All right, that'll do it for the weekend warm up under the Big Bets on Campus banner. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the pod. If you're here on YouTube, subscribe, like, comment. All of it helps in terms of the algorithm. If you haven't already, once again, subscribe. I know we say it time and time and time again. Go ahead and hit that little bell, subscribe so that everything, populates for you on your account. You'll know that when we're coming live, which by the way, we're coming live at 10:30 a.m. tomorrow. That means Stuckey, Greg Waddell, Christian, and myself. So we're going to be there from 10:30 to 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't miss it to get all of our plays for Saturday. Thanks for listening to the Big Bets on